I misunderstood. I thought they were going to give Obama the whole 30 minutes from noon to 12:30 to make his picks, a whole show of it when they're going to videotape him. It turns out they did it in about, 3 to 4 minutes, picked his brackets. I thought he was going to pick all 58 brackets. Instead, he picked the final 4. I don't know. I didn't see it. Anyway, we've got it. We had it in time to put together this montage.
Breaking news live from Japan with what is now believed to be the worst nuclear disaster.
As much as I love North Carolina, as much as I love Roy Williams, I think Ohio State's got the talent this year.
Breaking news on another crisis, the conflict in Libya.
I think Kansas keeps on winning.
Breaking news now as we watch the closing bell on Wall Street. Tumultuous day.
I'm going to pick Duke.
We have breaking economic news, housing starts, and the producer price index.
And on this one, I think Pitt's going to win.
I mean, you can't illustrate this disconnect. Okay, so Obama picked the Sweet 16. Yip. So Andy Katz, who was the senior basketball writer on ESPN, the correspondent, along with Doris Duke, they had this exchange about Obama and his bracket pick.
Even though he's quite busy, there's still some knowledge of what's going on. He certainly could reference some of the things going on within the sport, maybe a little Big East tournament, and in the women's side, too, as well.
You can tell the guy has played the game and is a fan of the game because he'll reference specific things, whether it's a defensive-minded team or a certain player that he thinks can carry a team. You can tell he can play.
No question about it.
He can't play. Look, this is my point. I come on this radio show. How many times you hear talk about the NFL? Would they ever say this about me and him? Oh, the guy can play the game. Oh, wow. This guy, you can tell he's a fan of the game. He'll reference things, defensive-minded team. I mean, they bend over backwards to accommodate this guy. It's almost like the way you behave with a special needs kid. Oh, way to go, Johnny. 2 + 2 is 5. You're so smart, just like Diane Sawyer yesterday. By the way, the Hollywood Reporter is giving me the business over this one. Diane Sawyer at a shelter in Japan in the midst of all of that destruction. She look, recycling. They're recycling here in Japan. As though everybody's a child. I don't know, folks. Everything, and that's the way they're positioning Obama for us. He can't do anything wrong. Back in a moment. Hey, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I shouldn't have to do this. After 22 years, when I proffer an opinion, when I give you some analysis, when I tell you why it is, for example, that Obama's being portrayed as he is, why it's a total caricature. I'm right, but you just have to doubt me. It's just the thing to do. Listen to David Brooks. If this doesn't prove the point that I just made, they look at Obama. Some people look at him and see somebody so smart. It's almost like an alien. It's almost he's got the answer to every question. We are not smart enough to keep up with him, and so it's hindering him. He's so smart. He's so advanced, lives in a different plane, lives in a different astral plane, lives in a different world than we do. We can't hope to understand. We should just be thankful we're alive at the same time he is. I mean, this is the kind of crap that we've been told about Obama. And as it became apparent that he was not who they told us he was, there's nothing special. There's nothing unique. We've not seen nothing like this in politics before. We've seen it every day. There's nothing special here. Nothing. Not one thing. The one thing that might be historic about the Obama presidency is how horrible it is. He may be, before this is all said and done, the worst president this country's ever had. But we're not going to have the people who told us he was going to be the best, the most unique, whatever president we've ever had agree with that. So the excuses have to be made. And here's David Brooks. You got to love David Brooks. 2005 or 6, whenever he first met Obama, New York Times conservative columnist, first met Obama and has actually written that it was the crease in Obama's pant as he was sitting there in front of Brooks that convinced him he was going to be president and going to be a great president. And this, David Brooks, a guy considered to be among the conservative intelligentsia, one of the super smart. Like Obama, we pale compared to his aura of brightness. And that kind of comment is as absurd. The crease in his pants. So this morning on Morning Joe PMSNBC, during a discussion about his book, Brooks has a new book out there called The Social Animal, The Hidden Sources of Love, Character, and Achievement. And a guest panelist, Time Magazine senior political analyst Mark Halperin. And Mark Halperin said to Brooks, who is there in public life who you think has a very deep understanding of the balance of reason and emotion and uses it effectively as a leader?
Clinton had a sort of a galloping emotional side. He is the one in our lifetime who really has this ability. My armchair diagnosis of Obama, just having covered him these years, is that he's a very complicated person with many different selves. We all have many different personalities that are aroused by different contexts. It also means I think he's rarely all in. He rarely commits 100% because there's always another part of him that's sort of analyzing and stepping back.
Oh, okay. See, so here we've got a guy in the midst of a ruinous presidency. A presidency that is becoming laughed at, mocked, and joked about, and feared for its incompetence all over the world. And what is the explanation? Well, he has so many different personalities. He's so complicated, we can't hope to understand Obama. He has many different personalities aroused by different contexts, which, of course, would explain his arousal for the NCAA brackets. He's rarely all in. He's so smart. His intelligence is so abnormally high that he can be intimately involved in many things at one time and be entirely competent and assured without rarely committing to 100%. Because there's always another part of him analyzing and stepping back and thinking and so forth. I mean, this is what we get. This is how the excuses are made. The average ordinary American can look at incompetence and see it. The average ordinary American can look at somebody's in a job they got no business having. They can see somebody totally in over their head, and they can see somebody who doesn't care. They can see somebody who really isn't even into it. But they're too stupid to really know. So that takes Brooks and the rest of these guys to explain to us the complexities of all this that we are hopelessly unable to comprehend ourselves. Now, let's go to the audio soundbites. Let's stay with them. This is Chip Reed. Now, this is yesterday afternoon at the White House Daily Briefing. I bet if there's a guy in Washington who wishes he had said no when the job was offered, it's Jay Carney, the White House press secretary who took over for Robert Gibbs. It has been hell from the first day Carney stepped in there. You can tell that he's not comfortable with it, doesn't apparently like it. But what you going to do? President wants you to be press secretary and you're working for Biden. What are you going to do? That's a Chip Reed. Chip Reed at CBS. Chip Reed, the series of soundbites, so we have 3 of them. Chip Reed, flabbergasted, essentially saying to Carney, don't you people think it's time to make a decision on Libya? Starts out with this question. Chip Reed. On the no-fly zone, what exactly is the regime's position before the Security Council?
Our position, Chip, remains that we are evaluating a number of options, military options, including a no-fly zone. We feel that it is important that any action like that that might be taken should be done in concert with our international partners. We would look to the UN as a forum for evaluating that option.
But a decision has to be made now, Reed said. We're going to make a decision here. And Carney says, well, yeah, but we got to talk to our international partners. They'll look to the UN. Chip Reed not happy.
Is the president satisfied to follow, not lead, on deciding whether to do it?
I take issue with the characterization.
Isn't it time to make a decision, yes or no?
Well, Chip, you tell me if, as an American citizen, would you want your president not to consider all the implications and ramifications of taking
There come a
military
point to make
action.
where you have to make a decision.
3 times. Don't you think it's time you make a decision? Well, what do you want, Chip? You're an American citizen. You want the president running in like a cowboy? What do you want, Chip? Well, I take issue with the characterization. He says, isn't it time to make a decision? Doesn't there come a point we have to make a decision? Here's Carney.
When it comes to considering military options, this president will always be mindful of what the mission, should it be engaged, what it entails, the risks that it poses to our men and women in uniform, and its likelihood of having the kind of impact that we set out for it to have. And that is his responsibility as Commander-in-Chief.
There you got it. That's Jay Carney explaining Obama's view of leadership. Dithering around, waiting. Well, the president's going to always be mindful of what the mission, should it be engaged, what it entails, should it be engaged, the risks that it poses to our men and women in uniform, if we do it. And its likelihood of... Meanwhile, Gaddafi, with arguably the worst trained, worst staffed, stupidest military in the Middle East, is winning. All because we're hamstrung by a guy who made mincemeat of his predecessor for imposing the will of the United States in the Middle East and Iraq. So he can't go there. He's got to let somebody else do it. And everybody else waits for us to decide. He's not deciding. He's making picks on ESPN for the NCAA Final Four, March Madness. Let's go to audio soundbite 24. This is where Obama did the big public service, urging people to go to his website to learn about Japan before making their own picks.
Andy, obviously, we are going through incredible changes all around the world. Most recently, obviously, our hearts go out to the people of Japan.
Right.
One thing I want to make sure the viewers who are filling out their brackets, this is a great tradition. We have fun every year doing it.
Right.
But while you're doing it, if you're on your laptop, etc., go to usaid.gov, usaid.gov. And that's going to list a whole range of charities where you can potentially contribute to help the people who've been devastated in Japan. I think that would be a great gesture as you're filling out your brackets. They can help out some people who are really going through a tough time.
Right. So before you fill out those brackets, I mean, who are we talking to? We're talking to people drinking Bud Light and Coors Light at 9 in the morning. Now, you guys make sure you go to the USA.gov website here, and before you shave and all that, before you take the Viagra, you go out there and go to my website and figure out what the heck's going on in Japan, and then you fill out your brackets. That's very cool. And then Andy Katz, ESPN Sports Center senior college basketball correspondent, and Obama have this exchange about Obama's tournament bracket.
We actually have the same national championship game.
There you go.
Ohio State versus Kansas.
And I'm picking Kansas.
Right,
just because I think they're deeper. I think that Kansas has more firepower. After last year, look, here's what happened. I picked North Carolina. They lost. The next year, they won for me. I think Kansas is going to do the same thing. They always feel bad about losing. When the president picks them, they're going to go all the way.
Yep. There you have it. Now, while all that was going on, other news was being made.
Breaking news live from Japan with what is now believed to be the worst nuclear disaster.
As much as I love North Carolina, as much as I love Roy Williams, I think Ohio State's got the talent this year.
Breaking news on another crisis, the conflict in Libya.
I think Kansas keeps on winning.
Breaking news now as we watch the closing bell on Wall Street. Tumultuous day.
I'm going to pick Duke.
We have breaking economic news, housing starts, and the producer price index.
And on this one, I think Pitt's going to win.
Speaking of housing starts, this is Reuters. New housing starts at the lowest in 27 years, folks. But we got a recovery going on. How long did it take Obama to decide on the surge for Afghanistan? And that was something he promised all during the campaign. That took 6 months, right? We need to break into study groups, report back in a few weeks on the no-fly zone. Maybe appoint a blue ribbon panel on the no-fly zone. Maybe do some focus groups and polling on the no-fly zone. Maybe that'll do it. David Brooks, who, by the way, thinks Sarah Palin is a buffoon, telling us about the complexities of Obama. Never really all in, never 100% in because of these complexities. He's always stepping back. He's always thinking. He's always analyzing out there. Yes, he's always making sure that he's on top of a very complicated person. Another part of him sort of analyzing and stepping back. He has many different selves. Sarah Palin's a buffoon.